Let me get this straight. Greetings, y'all. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. And we are connected right now on Rockfin. If you'd like to watch me on Rockfin, ROKFIN.com, you can watch me for free on Rockfin, which is a good thing to do. Funny story, I have more followers on Rockfin than I do on YouTube, and that only happened in 1 year. So YouTube is doing everything they can to try to indicate that nobody's watching my channel, nobody cares, nobody's subscribing. And they are committing fraud on a major level. And one more story about YouTube. Yesterday, hilarious. I looked at my stream, the count of views on my last video yesterday at about, I don't know, 4:35, maybe it was a little late, maybe 6. And it had, the number of views was 586. And then, I don't know, 2 hours later, I looked again. It was still 586. I was like, there were people commenting on I was like, so people are just on my page commenting, but they're not watching the video? Alrighty then. And at about 8:30 or 9 o'clock, it went up to 614. I was like, okay, right. I had, 30 views or less than 30 views in 2 hours of a video I just put up that day. Bullshit. So they're just lying on so many levels. How you doing, guys? William Kameshwari. So yeah, I have more followers on Rockfin in 1 year than I have on YouTube in 3 years. So the numbers are all fake. The numbers of views on my videos are fake. The number of likes, the number of subscribers, all of it is fake. And it's very frustrating. It's frustrating because the intent is to make people feel like this channel isn't popular, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's watching me. Let me just tell you, if you're gaining subscribers and getting a lot of views on Rockfin, on YouTube, clearly you're not talking about anything consequential. If you're saying anything of consequence or anything that challenges the establishment or the official narrative, that's when they start censoring you and maligning you and suppressing your channel. So if your channel's not being suppressed, you're probably not saying much. Just so you know. Or you're saying things in just a way that the establishment likes, or for whatever reason you are a friend of the establishment. The CIA likes you. And if the CIA likes you, then I don't know. You're probably not a very interesting person to talk to. Right. Ross Cobbin, they want to make YouTube part of the lamestream media. Yeah. And so it's just whatever. I have to just say it because it's so blatant and it's wild. Right. Rich Diana, they can't ban you, so they use subterfuge to reduce your visibility. On top of that, my video yesterday was demonetized. What did I talk about yesterday? I pretty much spent the whole video talking about Arctic amplification or high, anomalies, Arctic anomalies, temperature anomalies. Apparently, they didn't like that. Apparently, that was somehow, not a good thing for advertisers or something. I wasn't saying anything else yesterday except for discussing the Arctic. Anyways. Let's get into some stuff. I'm going to try to do 2 videos today, guys, but I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'm still stuck on another project, so I just don't. It's really difficult to find the time to do more than 1 video, but I'm going to do this video. Yes, Basil Peterson, Jimmy did do a great interview with Glenn. Greenwald on censorship. It's partly one of the videos I'd like to do specifically talk about, but it is becoming all more pervasive, and it's going to be ramped up. And you can thank all the well-meaning liberals and the Trump derangement syndrome and the Russia gators for allowing or conspiring with the establishment. Yes, take him down, block him, squash him, fact check him. He's a bad person. Whoever, fill in the blank. They're like QAnon or something, right? Oh God, I gotta read you guys, not on this video, but I gotta read you guys something hilarious about some CIA article about QAnon. It's hilarious. So if they don't like what you're talking about, it doesn't even matter what it is. We heard Michael Mann the other day say that if you were a doomer, or if you believed in catastrophic climate change, or the fact that the extinction, sixth mass extinction is nigh, if you believe those things and that maybe we're quickly going over the edge, if you feel nihilistic, if you feel like maybe there might not be a chance to turn the ship around, and you're not on board with the Democratic agenda and the Green New Deal, if you're not on board with renewables saving the planet, if you're any one of those things, you're Russian, you are influenced by Russian disinformation campaigns and bots and bad actors and, maybe Iran. I don't know what the hell Michael Mann was saying the other day. So there you go. If you have questions of any kind, you're probably aligned with QAnon or Trump or Iran or Russia or, eco-fascists or eugenicists or racists. You're probably aligned with some very bad people, and so, we want to make sure that people are safe from your viewpoints. Please, 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 please do not partake in that bullshit. Yeah, Andy the Gardener, it's not is 180,000 views good then? I mean, like, the thing is that it's just, you don't care, but other people, right, who might stumble onto the channel or, oh, yeah. Nobody here, nobody watching. It's only got 3,000 viewers, What's the matter with this guy? And so, whatever. Oh, yes, I do have a cool cup. Yes. A little shout out to Environmental Coffee House. Anyways, let's get into it, because I spent like 9 minutes blathering away about stuff I didn't really want to talk about in this video, but it's fine. It's all connected, guys. You know what I'm saying? Because Michael Mann told you if you're a doomer, you might be influenced by Russians. So there you go. How politics actually affect you if you're interested in climate change. And not engaging in politics might actually leave you in a place where you can say less and less and less and less and less about climate change, because you didn't care to engage in any talks about politics. You didn't care. I don't care. It's not my bag. I'm just interested in climate change. Anyways, let's go. This is a scary tweet from Go Green. Shocking discovery: bubbling methane craters and super seeps grow all along East Siberian Arctic Ocean shelf, with concentration of atmospheric methane 15 times above the planetary average. 15 times. And the interesting thing, the planetary average is almost triple what the baseline was. It was we used to have a baseline of something like 700 parts per billion of methane, and then now that's gone up to 1,800 parts per billion. So 2.5 times. Now the planetary average is 2.5 times the entire planetary average of methane. 2.5 times what it used to be, what it should be, what the baseline was. Oopsie. And now we're 15 times in some places. Let's look at this a little bit closer. From the Siberian Times, bubbling methane craters and super seeps. Is this the worrying new face of the undersea Arctic? Quick answer. A team of 69 scientists from 10 countries documented bubble clouds rising from the depth of around 300 meters along a 150-kilometer undersea slope in the Laptev Sea and confirmed high methane concentrations by hundreds of onboard chemical analysis. This is from yesterday. Fields of methane discharge continue to grow all along the East Siberian Arctic Ocean shelf, with concentration of atmospheric methane above the fields reaching 16 to 32 parts per million. This is up to 15 times the planetary average, which is 3 times what it should be. And I guess we watched a little video already, but this is 40 seconds of methane bubbling. A team of 69 scientists from 10 countries documented bubble clouds rising from the depth of around 300 meters. I just read that. A second discovery is pockmarks and craters sunk deep in shelf sediments of both the Laptev and East Siberian seas, actively venting bubbles and strong methane signals. All previously discovered fields of methane discharge showed an increase to various degrees. Now we need to figure out exactly how much they grew, said the head of the expedition, Professor Igor Samilitov. One of the new discoveries was a field of sea bottom craters in the shallow part of the Laptev Sea, some of them 30 meters in diameter. They look like holes in the permafrost, and as our study showed, they were formed by massive methane discharge. So I guess these are the areas that they're seeing this happen. And just pictures of people looking at things. It's all very scientific. The expedition mapped over 1,000 large seep fields, areas of massive methane discharge over 100 meters. Good Lord. Over 1,000. And mega seep fields, each over 1,000 meters in linear dimension. We believe these emissions at this stage have not yet any large impact on global atmospheric methane and climate, yet these huge carbon GHG capacitors are clearly activated. Clathrate gun fired. 6 megaseeps were registered in both the Laptev and East Siberian seas in what the scientists describe as the most comprehensive observation of active release from methane hydrates on the Siberian active slope system. Yes, and there you go. And there you go. Not good. Oh, there's Russian influence, the dude. Yes, exactly. Those damn Russians, they're out there investigating things. Look at them telling us about the methane. Of course. It's a Russian conspiracy. What is that noise? Sorry. Oh, I see. Let's X that out. Duncan McCown says, for years, Peter Wadhams got torn to pieces by his peers for supposedly exaggerating this methane problem. I don't suppose I told you so is going to make him feel much better. Probably not. Ask the animals. Michael Moore, Planet of the Humans interview was just this week, or Michael Mann? I don't know. There's double M's. I can't tell. On his rump. Did he interview Michael Mann? I think I saw something about something. Again, that's my investigative journalistic take. Something about something. All right, let's move on. Intrepid viewer and tweeter, TCR Galaxy. Again, posting some interesting stuff, retweeting this post from Professor Farhana Sultana. Farhana Sultana says, Malthusian and eco-fascist arguments making the rounds is getting tiresome. So tired. Problem is overconsumption by the wealthy, so at the expense of the many. So sure. Ding. We'll give her a ding. One ding on that. Yes, overconsumption by the wealthy. The problem is that everyone who lives in the United States, is even the poorest of those who live in the United States, are exceptionally wealthy compared to the rest of the world. Like, so very wealthy. And I'm going to show you how wealthy we all live in the first world, and even, I don't know what you want to call it. You know, some nations maybe don't even qualify for third world or developing nations anymore status. But anyways, she's tired of it. It's about unequal power relations, maldistribution, class, race, gender inequities, etc. Population myths have been debunked already, so it's over. It's over, according to her. And TCR retweeted with population myths have been debunked. Well, that's news to me. What's not news to me is hasn't been debunked is that we are so effed, right? So, you know, apparently this is just debunked. If everybody just treats everybody nicely, humans just do, you know, humanitarian things, you know, everything's going to be better. And if the rich people would just stop being so rich and so mean and so wasteful and powerful and resource hungry, if they just stop doing that, well, golly gee, everything's going to be better. This made me really upset when I read it. And then, you know, I had a few choice tweets, even for people who, a few people, you know, in the comments made very, you know, reasoned arguments about the fact that overpopulation is a problem. You know, it's people, you know, tweeting back at them like, "Oh, this just goes. You just revealed yourself as a you know, wild-eyed racist." Okay, no, it wasn't anything racist about what they were saying. They were just saying, yeah, overpopulation is a thing. Maybe we should figure out. I even said, like, you know, could we possibly discuss having fewer babies in order to save the earth? Is that a racist thing to say? That somehow, you know, maybe people should consider having less children? You're impinging on women's rights, if you suggest that they might, you know, I'm not suggesting that maybe we have some kind of like totalitarian response necessarily. But I mean, can we discuss it? That's the thing. Can we have a discussion? You know, apparently we can't even have a discussion because it's a Malthusian and eco-fascist to even have a discussion about overpopulation. And anyways, it turned into a really good thread, pretty good thread. Few things going on. TCR also points out, I wish I could see this larger, but points out, 10,000 years ago, the weight of vertebrate land animals, 1% humans, 99% wild animals. And today, humans make up 32% of the weight of vertebrate land animals. Wild animals make up 1%, and 67% are livestock that are used to feed those humans and their pets. Oh, no, population is not a problem at all. Because look what happened to all the wild animals. If we just, are super equitable and just treat everybody nicely, then, everything's going to be fine. Climate change will go away, guys. It's going to be great. Anyway, and Jim Massa tweeted a video by him. Hold on. Let me not double this. Hold on. Okay.
Now, I've done some videos in the past of discussing resources and what the effects of humans are having on the environment. And I have stated my position that situation is not sustainable. That there are too many people on the planet for the available resources. We have a finite planet, finite resources, and putting more and more pressure on the land, putting more and more stress on the land. We're asking the land to do more and more for which it cannot possibly do. We need land for housing. We need land to grow, raise food. We need land to conduct business. We need land to extract resources, raw resources. It's not sustainable. Now, I actually made the statement that, and I'll explain this a little later on, that the carrying capacity for humans is about 100 million. And I've got some criticism for stating that, saying it was way too low, but this is what's going on.
Sorry. Didn't mean to do that.
And that's why I think it's going to be people on the planet. Carrying capacity for humans is about 100 million. And I've got some criticism for stating that, saying it was way too low, and that humans are smarter than that, etc. And it's like, it still comes down to the point that there's only so much resources to go around. Even if you got involved in a massive recycling regime, it takes energy to do recycling. I mean, I'm in favor of recycling as opposed to extracting raw resources, because it also takes energy to extract raw resources. But we need to not look at this with rosy glasses, but we keep it real. So, I'm going to first discuss carrying capacity.
All right. I just want to give a little bit of, well, hold on. Let's go back into this for just a second.
So what's the definition? The definition is the number of individuals of a species that an ecosystem can support based on available resources, and this is a key phrase right here, that can be sustained and replenished. It cannot be sustained and replenished. We are going to outstrip the resources, and then the population crashes. Carrying capacity is usually designated by capital K or capital C. So, number of individuals of a species that an ecosystem can support based on available resources that can be sustained, replenished, renewed. Insert your synonym there. Now, I thought I'd throw in a couple of basic growth models. On the vertical axis, we see the population.
All right. So, yeah, I just want to give a bit of an overview from Jim Massa, and hopefully not too many weird things are going on with my video. Let's look. Here's another thing I wanted to add to this discussion. This is what I wanted to add to this discussion. The problem with the argument that, if we were just all equitable, if everybody had, got to have stuff that everybody else has, and maybe the rich were corralled, I don't know how much of this equation the wealthy make up, right? But if everyone lived like the entire population of the U.S., and here's the thing, this is what everybody thinks should happen all over the world. Everybody should raise their standard of living to live just like us. That is, and even when people talk about equity and everybody having, everybody being treated fairly, and everybody, being paid fairly and paid the same, and like from a humanist standpoint, from a human rights standpoint, I agree with all of that. I concur. The problem is that you can't have everybody have all the stuff that we have and not destroy the earth. So equity runs up against carrying capacity very quickly. So if everybody was treated fairly and the rich were capped, their wealth was capped, or they're taxed or confiscated or whatever it is you want to talk about. Let's say all that happened and everybody had equal, fair access to life, liberty, and happiness, right? And some kind of standard of living. In order to be in line with the carrying capacity of the earth, we'd all have to live like people do in India. And probably not the wealthy, right? The wealthy in India are there's a huge divide between the way people live in India. The poor, right? There's the caste system. There are people that live in very poor conditions in India. The majority of people live in very poor conditions in India, and a large amount of people are farmers, subsistence farmers, right? And then you have very wealthy people. But in India, they only use 0.7 Earths. So we'd all have to live, kind of, sort of like how people live in India. So, equity is great, and I want that for, I want it for myself, and I want it for everyone I know on the planet. I want everybody to be treated fairly. I want everybody to have access to the same things that everybody else has access to. The problem is that if you have access to everything that everybody else has access to, then what happens? It doesn't take long. Brazil, again, a nation where many people live in poverty, still uses 1.7 Earths. That's a problem. If everybody lived like they lived in Brazil, we'd still be using too many resources. We'd still be destroying the planet. So I'm all for talking about equity and people being treated fairly. However, the idea of how people should live and how much people are allowed to have, or how much people are allowed to consume, should also be part of the equation, right? If we're talking about everybody living as the indigenous, not indigenous in the U.S. in 2020, because I'm sure quite a few indigenous people have access to casino funds and are living like any other American lives, right? But like maybe indigenous people of 100 years ago, right? If everybody's living that way, then we're good. But could 8 billion people live that way? And the thing is, here's another equation that gets left out. Part of the equation that gets left out. The reason why 8 billion people can be alive on the planet is because literally a trickle-down effect of how we live here in the U.S., right? Well, all the things that we have, we believe everybody else should have all the things that we have. And so, when things happen like famine or disasters, that would ordinarily take out a lot of humans, take a lot of humans out of the carrying capacity of their region, we, all this wealth gets distributed down here, right? Oh, we got it. We're going to help the poor people who don't have food and don't have. Again, that's a weird thing to say. I understand. I'm verging into, weird territory, but it's true. It's true. We keep a lot of people alive with our wealth, not just ourselves. So I think we really have to open up the idea that, obviously it's a horrible thing to let people die who are in famine or who are experiencing a natural disaster. But again, we see that from a point of humanitarianism, right? We see that from a point of humans must always be kept alive at all times for every reason. And it's just so ingrained in us, right? We would consider it a travesty. And it was at one time, in the U.S., right? During the 50s, before the 60s or the 70s, millions of people in America lived in starvation, in hunger, in poverty, right? Before food stamps and welfare and some things were enacted during the Johnson administration. Those were enacted because people went out, there were studies done, and there were like thousands, if not millions, of people living on starvation, in starvation poverty in the U.S. We see that as a humanitarian crisis, as something that can't stand. Oh my God. And obviously, there is plenty of food to go around. There's plenty of food to go around right now. There's plenty of food to go around the earth. So on some level, I agree with equitable distribution of resources. The resources that we are providing for ourselves could go a long way towards helping people at least not starve to death. But not starving to death is a far cry, very far away from having a standard of living, right? Not starving to death is a good thing. You don't want people not to starve to death, right? But there's a big difference between not starving to death or not living in like squalor, poverty level squalor, abject squalor, and consuming all the things that we are told that, we're supposed to have, right? So there's a lot of places where people live where this is if everybody lives this way, it's unsustainable. USA, Australia. I mean, look how many resources we are using. And that it's just a matter, it's an icky subject. It's an icky, yucky, you get into weird, like, I don't know, I feel kind of uncomfortable having this conversation. Again, this is not a conversation, right? Kuro Hikes, billion people cannot live without petrochemicals. Again, also the trickle down of all this wealth and all this food that we create is all provided for from the fossil fuel industry, right? Without fossil fuels, without relying on fossil fuels, we are not going to be able to keep the entire planet, 8 billion people alive. That's just true. So it's a hard conversation. It's a yucky, icky kind of, I don't know how I feel about this kind of conversation. One that I think that we should have. But when you're like, we already decided that this was not a thing, overpopulation. Again, and your name is Professor. Kudos on the degree. But if you can't understand like basic, I don't know what you would call it, physics, science, math, if you can't understand basic equations around carrying capacities, again, we've also covered in other videos, every species besides humans, every species on the planet have natural controls of their population. Every single species on this planet has their population controlled by natural forces. We have just figured out and learned how to overcome these natural forces that limit our population, which would keep us in balance with the planet, which would keep us in equilibrium with the planet. So nature doesn't give a shit about equity among humans, but nature does give a shit about equilibrium. What nature seeks is equilibrium, and equity is a good idea on a humanitarian level, but it's a human concept. It's an anthropogenic concept, right? So it's something that humans feel like other humans should do and how they should treat each other. That's awesome. I agree. We should treat each other better. We should treat each other nicely, but we should also understand what our actions are doing to the rest of the planet and the other animals. We are not into equity for animals. We are not into equity for nature. So don't talk to me about equity for other humans until you're ready to talk about equity for nature too. Right? I'm into it. I'm into equity for other humans. I'm also into equity for nature. It just is not, it's a large problem that we're just not seeing around. So it's all good. Anyways, Kuro Hikes, I grew up in starvation poverty. I'm sorry. That I'm sure that was horrible. I don't think anybody should have to starve. I don't think it's necessary that anybody should starve to death. Like, that's just a ridiculous idea that people should just be, left to starve. However, we can at least on a basic level feed each other. Natural Progressive, thank you for the super chat. And make sure that people have enough food. But there are other factors. Nature has other ways too of limiting carrying capacity, like diseases, like coronavirus, right? Like, people having a certain age limit, only living, so many years. I mean, this is a really horrible thing. This is a horrible thing to say, but infant mortality is a thing that nature uses to keep our population under control. That's, through the millennia, right? Humans had a lot of babies. They had a lot of babies because not all the babies were going to live, right? How many babies were going to make it to adulthood? So infant mortality was just like a thing that happened. It was a part of the human condition. Not every child lived in childbirth. Not every child lived through childhood. That's a horrible thing. It really sucks. But now infant mortality is seen as a horrible thing, and it is a terrible thing because we don't want anybody to die. But if every human, every child makes it to adulthood or makes it to 80 years old, then there's a lot more humans on the planet. So what are you going to do to offset the fact that you just offset a natural control on population because you didn't want to see children suffer? That's fine. But how are you going to offset that increase in population, right? That's just math. That's just numbers. I wish it were so. I wish that if we were just going to treat each other a lot better, that would suddenly solve climate change. I don't know. I wish that were the answer. I just don't see it being true, especially if I'm sure behind all of that, all the equity that we want people to have, everything about that is people attaining wealth. Well, there goes the planet. So if you're talking about equity as everybody having access to wealth and wealth acclimation or wealth accruement. And that wealth accruement translates into consumption, into destruction of the planet. Right? That's the equation that nobody's thinking about. Kuro Hikes, there's no wealth and there's no food without oil. That's the problem. I'm not arguing in favor of oil. I'm just pointing out Yeah, the simple reality, of course. Irk one, should nature have rights? Exactly. What about the equity of nature? What about the equity of the planet? Are we talking about that? Again, that starts to get a little weird, little icky. Maybe the nature should have as much rights as humans. Maybe other animals should have as much rights as humans. Oh, what are you talking about? That doesn't even enter into the mind or the equation of said professors or other people who are talking who are so uh, pearl clutched about this. But whatever. Kuro Hikes says, I mean, people won't even go vegan. No one is trying to save the planet. Right. Yeah, and equity is awesome, and I want equity. I want people to have. I want. I'm a progressive. I'm a. On many levels, I'm a humanitarian. I also question the anthropogenic viewpoint of life. So it's like I want people to have basic rights, basic human rights, and just basic access to being able to stay alive or have a place to live or have food to eat. Like I want all that for people. Um, it's just we're not going far enough with the conversations around this. Had Valmer says you're going to get us all deleted. I don't know. The violent hippie. Ooh, neither nature or humans have any inherent rights. We are all simply mortal organisms subjected to our environment, which for the majority of planetary history has been very hostile with no guarantee. Ding, ding, ding. Violent hippie, you win the prize. And a good friend of mine put this on Facebook one day, and I can't remember what the conversation around it was. Was basically, you have no rights. You're born into this world. Good luck. That's actually that's a reality. You have no rights. Or there's no inherent inalienable rights. That's just made up. All of that is a construct. Human rights, everything is a construct. you know, um, all the horrible things we do to each other and all the nice things that we do to each other. It's all, or that we should do to each other. All a construct. You're here. You're alive. You're figuring it out, and you're born into whatever paradigm or ecological set of circumstances that you're born into, and then good luck. Anyways, guys, I've run out of time for this video. I wanted to cover more, but we got off on this conversation, which I'm happy to have. I'm happy to have this conversation. I think it's an important one, but we will have more tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you all for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I'm going to try and come back with another video pretty quickly. Peace.